I never believed a few words on paper could destroy a family. But the day my grandmother's will was read, everything I thought I knew about love, family, and loyalty shattered into pieces. My name is Mason Grace. I'm 27, and for most of my life, I lived quietly in the shadow of my wealthy cousins, Evelyn, Chase, and Harper. They were the stars of our family. Confident, successful, and born into luxury. I was the quiet one, the dreamer, the one who didn't fit into their glossy world. My grandmother, Lena Grace, was the heart of our family. She built Lena Grace Couture, one of the most respected fashion brands in the world. People called her the Queen of Elegance. But to me, she was just Grandma, the woman who taught me patience, kindness, and how to see beauty in simple things. When she passed away, her mansion felt hollow. Her absence left an emptiness that even her empire couldn't fill. But for my cousins, grief wasn't the emotion of the day. It was greed. The day of the will reading, her lawyer gathered us in her old study. The air smelled of lavender and dust, and her portrait hung above the fireplace, smiling down at us as if she already knew what was coming. The lawyer began reading her final wishes, his voice steady but somber. To my granddaughter Evelyn, I leave my Malibu Beach villa. Evelyn smiled proudly. To my grandson Chase, my New York penthouse. He leaned back with a smirk. To my granddaughter Harper, my company shares and fashion archives. Harper gasped, tears forming, but not from sadness. Then came the moment everyone waited for. And to my grandson Mason, the room went silent. I held my breath. I leave my sewing machine. For a second, no one spoke. Then Chase burst out laughing. Evelyn joined in. A sewing machine? She mocked. What is he supposed to do? Start stitching our curtains? I smiled faintly, pretending it didn't hurt. But inside, I felt a mix of confusion and humiliation. My cousins had just inherited millions, and I got a rusty piece of metal. After the reading, I carried the sewing machine home in silence. It was old, bronze-colored, with scratches and rust creeping across its base. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Grandma had left it for a reason. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at it. It looked worthless, but something caught my eye. A small metal plate at the base engraved with delicate letters. It read, "For the one who looks beyond the surface." I froze. Grandma used to say that to me all the time. Mason, real value isn't what you see. It's what you look deeper to find. I leaned closer and noticed tiny screws holding the plate in place. Something about it felt odd. Curiosity got the better of me, and I carefully unscrewed it. Beneath it, a hidden compartment revealed itself. Inside was a folded envelope sealed with red wax and Grandma's initials. My heart raced as I broke it open. Inside were two things, a handwritten letter and a small silver key attached to a faded red thread. The letter read, "My dear Mason, if you're reading this, then you've proven yourself to be the only one who truly saw me. You looked past the glamour and saw the person behind the fabric and fame. This key unlocks something far more valuable than money. Go to where my dream began, the old tailor shop on Willow Street. What you'll find there will reveal the truth I could not share. With love, Grandma." My hands trembled as I read her words again and again. That old tailor shop had been closed for decades. It was where she first started sewing dresses for neighbors long before she became a global icon. My cousins were celebrating their inheritance, but I knew this. Grandma had left me something greater, a secret, and I intended to find it. The next morning, I drove to Willow Street. The air was cold, the sky gray. I parked in front of the old shop. Its windows were covered in dust, its sign, Grace and Stitch, faded and cracked. I tried the door, but it was locked. Then I circled to the back and found a small cellar door secured with a padlock. The silver key fit perfectly. As the lock clicked open, my heart pounded in my chest. The cellar smelled of old wood and fabric dye. Dust floated through beams of light as I stepped inside. Old mannequins, spools of thread, and faded sketches surrounded me. Every corner whispered memories of Grandma's early years. In the center of the room sat a table covered with cloth. On it was a leather-bound book, old, cracked, and marked with her initials. I opened it. Inside were hundreds of pages of sketches and notes. Each page told a story of her journey, her first dress designs, her struggles, her dreams. But as I flipped further, the handwriting changed. The elegant lines turned shaky, rushed, filled with pain. They want me to sign away the company. Chase forged the first contract. Evelyn is planning to take over my shares. I can't trust them anymore. My stomach dropped. On the last page, a small red thread was glued to the paper. It was the same color as the one tied to my key. I looked around and noticed something odd. A brick in the far wall that looked newer than the rest. I pushed it gently. It shifted. Behind it was a small compartment sealed with a latch. Inside was a metal box wrapped in brown fabric. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were legal documents, ledgers, and property deeds, all signed by Grandma except a few that were forged. Then I found another envelope. This one was marked, "To Mason in case of my death." I opened it. Mason. I discovered too late that my own grandchildren forged contracts to transfer ownership of my company. I didn't have the strength to fight them then, but I trust you will know what to do when the time comes. Keep this safe. Take it to my lawyer when you're ready. You are the only one I can trust. I felt my throat tighten. My cousins, the same ones who had mocked me, had betrayed her while she was alive. Before I could process it, I heard footsteps upstairs. My heart froze. I crept to the stairs. The creaking floor above gave away the intruders. Mason! Chase's voice echoed through the shop. I clenched my jaw. What are you doing here? He appeared at the top of the stairs, Evelyn right behind him. We followed you, she said coldly. You've been sneaking around since the will reading. What did Grandma leave you? Nothing you'd understand, I replied, clutching the box. Chase stepped forward. You're hiding something. He lunged toward me, but I dodged and bolted for the back exit. They shouted after me, but I didn't stop until I reached my car. My hands trembled on the steering wheel as I drove home. I knew one thing. Grandma hadn't trusted them for a reason. That night, I stayed up reading every page of those documents. And with every line, the truth became clearer. Grandma's empire had been stolen before she died. My cousins had manipulated her into signing away control using falsified contracts. And she'd hidden the proof inside a sewing machine, because she knew only I would look beyond the surface. 2 days later, I went back to the lawyer's office and showed him everything I'd found. He read every document, his eyes wide with disbelief. These are the originals, he whispered. The copies your cousins submitted were forgeries. Mason, this changes everything. He arranged an urgent family meeting that afternoon. We gathered again in Grandma's study, the same room where the laughter of my cousins once echoed when I was handed that old sewing machine. But this time the energy was different. Heavy, silent. Chase looked nervous. Evelyn tried to act calm, but her eyes darted toward the documents on the table. The lawyer spoke softly. We have verified new evidence that proves the estate was tampered with. Forged signatures, altered contracts, stolen assets. Chase slammed his hand on the table. That's a lie. The lawyer placed Grandma's letter in front of him. Lena Grace wrote this by hand. She knew what happened. Evelyn's voice trembled. So what does this mean? It means, the lawyer said, that Mason is the rightful heir to her controlling shares and estate. The room fell silent. I looked at them, the people who had mocked me, laughed at me, and called me the poor one. But in that moment, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt sad, because Grandma had seen this coming. She'd known greed would blind them. Chase stood abruptly and stormed out, his face red with rage. Evelyn followed, speechless. Harper stayed behind, tears streaming down her face. I didn't know, she whispered. I swear, Mason, I didn't know what they'd done. I nodded. I believe you. Weeks passed. The company was officially transferred under my name. The truth was made public, but I refused to destroy my cousins. I wanted to honor Grandma, and she would never have wanted vengeance. Instead, I rebranded the company under a new name, Grace Revival. Our mission wasn't to chase profit. It was to help young designers like Grandma once was, people with dreams but no resources. We created scholarships, community programs, and free design workshops for struggling artists. I placed the old sewing machine in my office, still rusted, still imperfect. It sits behind glass, a constant reminder of where everything began. Sometimes I sit in front of it, close my eyes, and I can almost hear her voice again. Mason, the world will always measure worth by wealth. But true value lies in what you create, not what you inherit. I smile every time I think of those words. Evelyn and Chase lost everything, their mansions, their status. But maybe they gained something more important, humility. Harper eventually joined me at the company, determined to rebuild Grandma's vision the right way. We turned our family's broken story into something beautiful again. Because not all treasures glitter. Some come wrapped in dust, hidden behind rusted metal and old memories, waiting for someone who truly looks beyond the surface. And that's when I realized what Grandma really left me. Not a machine, not an empire, but a legacy stitched together by love, honesty, and faith in what's right. She knew I would find it, and I did.